This meeting is being recorded.
Tonight we'll go back in time to seasons past, when 22 men graced the rugged fields of yesterday, fighting for one more first down, one more yard gain, one final score which would bring victory after 60 minutes of battle on the gridiron. Tonight we'll explore the world of Gridiron Greats. Welcome to Gridiron Greats Football History and its Memorabilia on the Sports History Network in conjunction with Swick Enterprises. And we're live from the Southport, North Carolina home of Gridiron Greats Magazine. I'm Bob Swick, publisher and editor of Gridiron Greats Magazine, and I'll be your host for the show. Gridiron Greats is the only publication in America that focuses upon the history and memorabilia of the North American football game since its inception in 1869. We cover 150 plus years of football history and memorabilia. You can find us on the web at gridirongreatsmagazine.com. So at this time, I'd like to introduce my co-host, the senior contributing writer to Gridiron Greats Magazine, a football memorabilia historian specializing in pre-World War II items, in particular Red Grange, and Seattle Seahawk items, in particular Steve Larger. He has, from Portland, Oregon, Mr. Joe Squires. Joe, welcome to the show today.
Captain, so good to be here. Good morning to you. Good afternoon on the East Coast.
And good morning to you. I rattled your phone very early this morning. I figured I'd wait till at least 7 a.m., but I know Joe's on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Walk the dog with my daughter. I love it.
Football, item or issue or whatever it may be. Joe, start off, I'm going to make one comment on the NFL season. I dislike strongly my Green Bay Packers having to start the season in Brazil with the Philadelphia Eagles, and I just think the big man, Vince Lombardi, is turning in his grave big time over this situation. Utterly ridiculous. You know, it's just such a turnoff to me. And then to add insult to injury, you got to subscribe to whatever the streaming service is to watch the game. So I said, no, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I'll check the score occasionally this evening, and that's it. I'll watch some good local high school football on the gridiron here, and watch real.
Give you one guess as to why the NFL Packers, the Green Bay Packers, are doing their season opener in Brazil. One guess, and I'll bet you'll get it. What do you think the reason is?
Could it be green cash dollars?
You, sir, are correct. Yes.
It's sickening. It's sick. I'm, as a shareholder of the Packers, I am not pleased in any way, shape, or form. And I am going to send a note to the Packers explaining my. I don't agree with that at all. I don't care. I understand you got to abide by your schedule, but it's garbage as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Well, a couple games in London, a year now, and suddenly we're playing in South America. I'm sure the fans aren't too big on it.
It's garbage. It's garbage. And if the Jaguars want to move to England, let them become the England Jaguars. That's the way I look at it. If I was a Jacksonville fan, I would say that this is ridiculous that we lose 2 games a year overseas. Like, you can't watch the games anyways either because they're on a streaming service. Yeah. So in subtle protest today, I have on my Baltimore Colts 1947 AAFC T-shirt.
Ew.
So, and this was something I picked up, believe it or not, way back when at the Baltimore National, at some sort of store, souvenir store that was near the convention center. And I only wear it on special occasions when I'm upset at the NFL, and I will view the AFC in good terms.
I've been, you haven't said anything, but I've spent the last 4 or 5 shows rotating in various shirts.
I see that.
Last show I wore a 1981 Topps Wax Pack shirt. And this week, in honor of our guest Miles, who who is showing off his calendars. One of the months of the calendar showed off a fan, a player that I'm a huge fan of.
Correct.
And I will leave you guessing who that player is in that month. We'll talk about him later on in the game. So this is in honor of that.
Hey, we got some show and tell in the time before we introduce our guests. I'll hand it off to you. It's something near and dear to my heart. Sadly, I did several years ago sell off what I had. I only had one of them, and I regret selling it now. But it's up to you to show.
Yeah, very quickly. We love talking about vintage football sets before each show, and we pulled an audible this morning, and we decided to talk about the 1931-32 Walker's Packers Cleaner. And
beautiful.
This is a intact full set, leather bound, beautiful set. This is a complete set with tabs. I picked it up at the old BST auction. It includes the original blue bookmark.
Yeah.
The bookmark string. These were, for our listeners, these were issued in, they call it the 1932 Walker's Packers, but these were issued in 1931. We've kind of deduced that. We had a thread on our vintage football community, VFC, headed up by our fearless leader, Jeff Payne. We deduced these were 1931. Don Carlos, one of the Green Bay Packers centers, only played in 1931, and he's one of the people inside this. They were advertised as one a week for 23 weeks, and then you get a nice leather-bound book to hold them in. And a blue tasseled bookmark is what they describe it as. And they're all over the place because in week 6, Don Carlos is listed as, hang on, I have that picture saved. Don Carlos is listed as, if you, the number 6 in a series of football players. Number 6 in a series of 23. Only 5 have been given out. Fits into a beautiful binder album, which will be given absolutely free to all who have saved the entire series of 23 pictures. Start this week to save the pictures. Later on, come and get, at the end of it, they say, come and get Whitey, the most unfortunate nickname, Whitey Howard Wooden, in January 1932. His photo autograph for you is the 27th and last in the popular and valuable Walker collection of Packer football players. Finest likeness, free with every order over $1. Whitey Howard Wooden. And it says 27. There's 27 of them. A little later, they say there's in January 16th, a week before the Whitey Wooden, they said, hey, there's 26 of them. And then a week later, Whitey Wooden said there's 27. So, I mean, a little bit, they started with 23 and then 26 and then 27. So they get the feeling they changed their mind. But obviously 1932, you're a year away from a recession. You get the feeling this was, an advertisement, for $1. If you spend over $1, you get these. But these are amazing. I mean, this is Packers history.
Something we talked about over the years, and I know you and I talked about it, again, for our listening audience, how many do you actually think of these sets exist in that display folder with the blue ribbon?
Oh, boy. Well, we started a thread on this 3-4 years ago, and the discussion was, they think there's about 9 to 10 complete sets that were issued, and they don't think they were what they're advertised as one per week.
Right.
But what most people think is it didn't go very well, and they were just kind of handed out in complete books.
Right. Right.
Obviously, I mean, 1931, 32 isn't that long ago. I mean, you would think that there'd be somebody alive who would know about that, or there was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, there was somebody alive who was like, oh, no, this is what happened. I mean, because there's advertisements in the paper going back all the way to October of 1931. where they're discussing this in an advertisement. Hey, come on in, spend $1 and ask for this, and you'll get it for free. So I mean, if you're advertising in a paper, you would think that these would have been sent out. This is number 1. This is Curly Lambeau, the coach. You can see they're way more valuable with the tab.
Yeah.
And it says up on top, this is number one in a series, Walkers, Packers, Cleaners. Little saying about them. And then they have a salutation.
Yeah.
I printed a spreadsheet over what each player says, and there's half of them say something, and half of them have nothing. From best wishes, cordially yours, sincerely, glad I know you, Paul Fitzgibbon. September 1931, Russ Saunders. To a fan, Vern Llewellyn. Good luck, Whitey. Most unfortunate nickname, Howard Wooden. Yours truly, best wishes, gratefully yours, kindest wishes to the fans, Elmer Red Slight said. Green Bay Packers 1931 was Curtis McNary. Glad to see you again, Johnny Blood McNally.
Yeah.
All kinds of different salutations down below. But number 2 in the series was Frank Baker, an end. Russ Saunders, quarterback. This is my 1 and complete set. Some of the tabs were up and over.
Yeah.
You had Curly Lambeau, and some of the tabs are off to the side.
Right.
Yurt Engelman. If you're not a Packers fan, you're not familiar with old Yurt. Hank Bruder. Here's number 6, as we just mentioned, old Don Carlos. And very popular Roger Grove. Yep. Just a very, very.
Show us 23 on, because those are the rarer ones of them.
Yeah.
That collectors really don't understand or realize that they're out there.
Yeah, the tough ones. Yeah. Paul Fitzgibbon.
Yep.
Number 23. Yeah. And this was kind of a cool one. Glad I know you, Paul Fitzgibbon. I could actually put my spreadsheet in order of what their issues. Tom Nash, end. You can see these okay.
Yeah.
Faye Wilson, number 25.
Yep.
He had nothing. He didn't sign anything. Old Faye was in a hurry. Thinks he's better than everyone else. Didn't have to sign anything. Whitey Wooden.
Very much in demand one.
Didn't put Howard on, just Whitey Wooden. There he is. Nate Barger. And then finally, number 27, Nate Barger. So maybe you see in the advertisement for Whitey Wooden that says series of 26. Maybe they issued the next one, center.
Yep.
But
those are
not a lot's known about it. It was one a week, like I mentioned, the blue tassel, the advertising for 23 pictures, later changed to 26, but 27 issued, free with orders of $1 or more. Quite certain it's not a lot known. I have 2 sets of these, one my full set and then one partial incomplete set, most of them missing tabs with the front page ripped off the book.
Oh, okay. All right. I remember that. Yep.
At the tassel, I have a couple loose tabs, but most of them are missing the tabs. But there's old Curly, the namesake. But so I don't know. This one's has seen a little more love.
They're a great historical piece of Packer memorabilia. Very expensive, very not so much overlooked, because they're, and to me, in demand. People do like to have a type piece of that in their collection. I know a lot of Packer guys, collectors, are looking for it. So to me, they're worth their weight in gold, to say the least.
Yeah, That's too bad. That one's got the front cover of the book ripped off. But when something starts to get up to be 90 years old, if somebody didn't take care of it, you think about hot attics or just weather or et cetera. Starts to. It says it's leather, but it certainly doesn't feel like leather.
No.
It feels like a cardboard.
Yeah, that's probably what it was.
Yeah, but
a fancier cardboard with a overlay on it type of situation.
A very rare Packers set. Do you have any type sets of the Packers cleaners?
No, I had one and I sold it probably 2 or 3 years ago during the move. So I regret selling it now. I always loved that piece. But long story short, I never know. Over time, I may find another one, and so on and so forth. But again, being a Packer fan, basically of 59 through 70, the Lombardi years, I always concentrated my collecting area in there more than anything else. Even though I do have some early pre-World War II stuff of the Packers in my collection. That's just beautiful. Great item.
A huge fan of those. I have to thank John Spano for getting me into those years ago.
Yeah, definitely.
The masters of little esoteric vintage sets. And
the one and only I had, I bought from BST. They had a few listed, and I bought it from John. All right, our guest is here, and I'd like to welcome him to the show and get started on our segment. Our special guest tonight alternates his home between New York State and Ontario, Canada. Since 1985, he owns an accounting bookkeeping business and was the owner of the Working Forest paper that was closed in 2022. However, while there, he developed contacts that helped him to establish the company known as Throwback Calendars in 2020 that publishes vintage sports calendars that have included the 2024 baseball legends, 2023 baseball in the Roaring 20s, 2021 to 2024, the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. And he's currently working on a brand new calendar, which is why he's on the show today, the 2024-25 Pro Football Hall of Fame Museum Calendar, which will be a 15-month calendar, and it will be their first calendar endeavor. And he's also working on a 2025 Baseball Reflection 12-month calendar. I'd like to welcome to our show today, Mr. Miles Causey. Miles, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Bob. I really appreciate being on your show, and it's quite an honor. So I'm happy to talk about football. Anytime we can talk about football, it's a good day.
That's true. It's true, especially during the day, during the week. Can you start off by telling our audience about your new Football Hall of Fame calendar?
Sure. So this is an endeavor between my company and the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I consider it their calendar. It's a 15-month calendar. It's a full color. It's an 8.5 by 11 calendar. So it's a fully functional calendar. If you have appointments or want to mark certain events, then you can certainly mark them in the individual boxes. So in working with the Hall of Fame, we wanted to really kind of basically show football through the years. So the photos or the images range between 1920 to 1960s. And working with the personnel or the staff there, we tried to incorporate action shots, maybe individual players. And Bob, you'll be happy to know that the January 2025 is a 1930 Green Bay Packer photo, a team photo, and it's fully colorized, which is kind of neat. And we also have for the AFL fans, we have a 1968 photo of Joe Namath in the championship game for the. We try to. This is, like I said, it's the first endeavor. We try to have a good variety of images that, if you're a football fan, maybe you like stuff in the 1930s or the 1950s. We try to have a good variety for anyone who enjoys vintage, football stuff for sure.
That's great. You know, I got a little aside here. Over the years, I actually have collected calendars. They literally were given away at shows or whatever. And these are, calendars obviously that are, older type of thing that, dealers would want to get rid of, so on and so forth. And it's kind of amazing what you see on calendars, that the photography, number one, and first and foremost, and just how they were made, so on and so forth. And for example, there's one calendar that sticks out in my mind, somewhat unrelated, a 1982 football calendar, which had the photos, and Joe, you might remember this, of the old Marketcom posters. And that's what was the template that they used for the calendar. So I've shown it at shows, and a lot of collectors will say, "Well, what's this? I never saw it before." And then I show them a Marketcom picture and I match it, and it's kind of interesting to see. But I do have a lot of calendars in my collection, so it's a very interesting collectible, to say the least. What you've said, which I think really hits home, you're trying to get a wide audience of people interested in the calendar as far as a vintage run, and I think there's some great shots in it. As we talked prior to this and looked at your website on it, it was just amazing to see the photos there.
Absolutely, and it's a good point that you mentioned, because I have found, like, in 3 or 4 years that I've been doing this, it goes from a functional calendar to where at the end it becomes a collectible. People put it as part of their collection because these images, these photos they're unique, right? You'll never see them like anywhere else. So
Right.
I can understand why you keep the calendars, because a lot of folks do. They become a sure.
Yeah, and again, as we try to eliminate as much paper as possible for whatever reason, they're going to become more rare in the future, to say the least.
Yeah, for sure.
Miles, thanks for being on, and thanks for sending a PDF of your calendars. I was absolutely blown away just by the colorization, how it just jumped off the page. Just amazing. I'm curious. I mean, your pictures are incredible. First of all, just the front, just autogram, turn in the corner. You'd mentioned, just where. I'm curious, where do you get your pictures from? And moreover, I collect ticket stubs, et cetera. I noticed some of your ticket stubs you're not grabbing authentic ticket stubs. They looked more like a template that you would use. Yeah, where are you grabbing your photos and your ticket stubs from?
So the photos come from the Hall of Fame itself. That's all their images. And there is quite a lot, obviously, they have in their archives. And working with John Kendall, he's the person responsible for the archives at the Hall of Fame. And just super to work with. Again, he took the lead in trying to provide the variety of photos to make the calendar appealing to as many people as possible. And I give a special shout out to Rich DeRoger at the Hall of Fame as well. He helped with the text. So there, on each month, there's text that basically describes the image. To the right side, there will be some points that of interest, hopefully for that season or for the player himself. It just gives a kind of an added benefit to looking at that particular month. So I forget, what was the other part of your question, John?
The ticket stubs.
The ticket stubs are just a template that's used.
Okay.
My graphics artist, again, she's a real sports fan, and she did the research to come up with these ticket stubs. And that's what I find, that with my staff and with obviously working with the Hall of Fame, we're all big sports fans, all big sports football fans. And I think it reflects in the calendar itself. It's kind of a labor of love, right? I mean, obviously it's a business, but I hope as the folks see that, as the audience looks at it, they'll be able to see, this is a really unique item for sure.
I'd like to point out my favorite month, December of 2024. just an amazing colorized photo of Red Grange. Who does the colorization of that? Does the Hall of Fame do it just so it's all standardized, or did you?
Right. So I use a company, they Played in Color Galleries. And the gentleman that actually the artist is Chris Whitehouse. So if you do research on Chris Whitehouse, he's one of the foremost individuals that does color restoration of sports images. And Chris loves sports. So it can be football, it can be baseball, it can be hockey. He does the research as to what, the particular, what, if you were at that time, what it would be in color at that time. And he does just a really unique job. Like there's other artists that obviously do color restoration, but for my money, Chris just does a wonderful job of the presentation.
And do you give those back to the Hall of Fame just so I guess it would be awkward if you had a photo of that photo of Red Grange on that Thanksgiving Day, game, and you colorized it, and then a couple years later somebody else grabbed the same photo and had it colorized by somebody else, and it was different if it wasn't standardized. So I mean, how you colorize it, does that become the standard?
I think so. I mean, like I said, the research that Chris has done, no one has argued with regard to his images in the past. So I think with the research he does, it's pretty close to what it was, back in the day, right? So, it's just little things that I see, like the front cover. If you look at the footwear of, it's certainly not like it is today, right? So, but
that's a statement to say the least.
Even just the friction tape on his arms is proper. And I just wanted to give a shout out. I read this, and this Thanksgiving Day game is something I just know quite a bit about. And it was awesome. Early 1920s, George Halas desperately needed a special gate attraction to help draw attention, not only to his Chicago Bears teams, but also to the NFL league as a whole. Harold Red Grange, the University of Illinois speedy and elusive running back, seemed to be the answer. On Thanksgiving Day, 1925, 10 days after Grange's last college game, 39,000 filled Cubs Park, now known as Wrigley Field, to see Red's pro debut against the Chicago Cardinals. 10 days later, 68,000 fans packed New York Polo Grounds to see Red and the Bears take on the New York Giants. Those two iconic games, and Bob and I were talking about that last game. Yeah. That New York Giants game where Wellington Mara's reportedly to have wept at seeing the attendance, that saved his team, that saved the NFL. We've had guests on who talked about that rumor, and 39,000. I mean, before that, the Bears, you read, Chris Willis's book on Grange, and before Grange came along, and even, it took a couple games, they would have to wait for gate receipts to come in and then run across to the store across the street to get medical tape and, stuff for the players. I mean, it was touch and go. And
it's so interesting, like the early days, right? Any stories about the early days, it's truly unique. I think the October 2025 image, it's the Frankfurt, or not Frankfurt, but the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets. So that was the forerunners, of the Philadelphia Eagles. So it's just interesting. All the stories from the 20s and 30s, just a matter of survival, and it's certainly far different from the game today. But it's really interesting. I enjoy sports stories. So when I read like stories about the in the 20s and the 30s, it's really interesting to me.
Yeah, and I love the stats you threw up, like on the Frankfurt Yellow Jackets one you mentioned. You've got the 1926 NFL leaders off to the right. Barney Wentz, Pottsville Maroons, the rushing touchdown leader with 10. Duke Henry, the receiving leader with 4. Vern Llewellyn with the Packers with 3. I mean, I love that. That is such a nod, and it's just cool.
Special shout out to Rich because at the Hall of Fame, because he was responsible for all that and making sure that it was accurate. So yeah, I can't thank the Hall of Fame enough. They were just tremendous to work with for sure.
So you look at Red Grange's stats that you put in on the December 2024, and they pale. 96 games, 569 yards, 21 touchdowns. That's a season for most players now. That's his career stats. He missed a couple seasons, obviously, but yeah.
Unbelievable. Miles, tell us, our audience, about your other calendars. I noticed very, very interesting baseball calendar and the Negro Baseball League Museum calendars. Give us some background on those.
So that's where I got my start with the Negro Leagues Museum in Kansas City. That was my first license. So we basically, started in 21 with a calendar for them. And that was a real education. Like, I'm a baseball fan as well. And again, to read about those stories about those players. And it's kind of interesting now where their stats are now being included. So that's, as you go through the different months, see these great players, it's really interesting to look at. I've done independent baseball calendars. I would feature the stars. We did one calendar called the Baseball in the Roaring '20s, which was baseball stars during the 1920s. Again, fully colorized. I did a calendar called Baseball Legends. So it can be anywhere from Lou Gehrig to George Sisler, all the different legends of baseball. And again, fully colorized. You can go on the internet, see the black and white image, but when you see it in color, it just adds a whole new meaning to, what those players, you can visualize a little bit better for sure.
Right.
Yeah. So that's basically, like I said, this is my first endeavor into the football, and I just enjoyed it tremendously. It was a real learning experience and, a real good education experience for sure.
Most definitely. I mean, the quality of it is superb. I mean, it really stands out. The pictures, being collector, Joe and I being collectors, anybody who is a collector will see the colorization of those photos is just absolutely beautiful. Even though we are purists and we still enjoy the actual photos of the real postcards that were issued, something like this really is a very attractive part of the calendar and a very attractive part of the presentation of it at the same time.
Exactly.
Joe said, I mean, the write-ups going through really were very, very well done and very informative, and from a true historical perspective, which one can't expect from the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Not the same.
Right. Exactly, for sure. Yeah.
Miles, you're working on a college, an NCAA calendar as well. Before the show, Bob was kind of giving you a tip of the hat to how quickly you got the Hall of Fame, to agree to this calendar. What's it? What are the differences, getting, how quickly you got the Hall of Fame to agree, to working with you versus, the NCAA? And then what other sports are you working on?
So obviously, like I said, at the forefront with having a license from the Negro Leagues Museum and doing, some calendars for them, it gives the company credibility. So, basically emailed Rich at the Hall of Fame there, and we, went back and forth, and this is where it was put together. If I do a college, and I'm still thinking about it, but if I do a college football Hall of Fame, I'll approach the College Hall of Fame in Atlanta, and I'm hoping to do that, and just to work with them to produce a football calendar just dedicated to the college players and the star college players of yesteryear.
You got approval from the Hall of Fame like quickly. You just reached out and they were like, "We love it. Send us some template," or
Yeah, pretty well. I mean, everything takes time, but yeah, I mean, I think once they've seen the product from the museum in Kansas City, Joe, they were very impressed, and it logically went from there. So, and I'm pretty easy to work with, so it went.
You seem pretty amiable, yeah. Do you ask them for photos? Do you say, like, I'd like these 20 photos, or do they send you the photos? How does that work?
Yeah, so in working with John, I kind of expressed what I would like to see, a variety of whether it was action shots or individual players. And so he went through the archives, and I think there's about 35 images that he presented, and we kind of whittled them down, obviously, to 15. And it worked really well. Like I know I'm repeating myself, but I can't.
No, you're great.
As the cooperation that the Hall of Fame gave to making this product come to life. It was a true collaborative effort for sure.
Very cool. So they sent you 30. You personally whittled it down to 15. That was at your discretion.
Yeah. So again, what we did is that we took 15. We did up a draft of the calendar, sent it over to them, and there's a couple that they didn't really like. They thought maybe adding a couple or inserting a couple of different photos would be more advantageous. So we did that. We said, okay, if you don't like these particular presentations, we'll use another 2 photos that you provided. So one was that Green Bay Packer photo of 1930. That was kind of a last minute addition. So
gotcha.
A wise addition, I may add.
Yes.
I like
Packer fanatics out there who will purchase the calendar just based on that one picture, especially from the glory years there. I'm curious, this is a little off script.
Mm-hmm.
The most logical thing, a hockey calendar with your Hockey Hall of Fame up there.
Yeah, absolutely. I've had some discussions with them. It's a more limited market than the football and baseball. So focus has been more on the football and baseball than the hockey, but that is in the pipeline. I would like, obviously being Canadian,
Yeah,
I would like
to say.
But I have approached, there's a museum in this area, the Bobby Orr Museum.
Yeah.
And that's Bobby Orr, and I have reached out to them about possibly doing a calendar just exclusively for Bobby Orr. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's certainly in the pipeline to do a hockey.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, I grew up with the original 6. I mean, that's to me real hockey, which is the original 6 NHL teams. Now there's a couple hundred of them or whatever they are everywhere. I just can't get excited watching hockey in Phoenix, Arizona in 110-degree weather. And the same thing down here, I can't get excited seeing my old Hartford Whalers skating in Raleigh, North Carolina, and then once a year make money off the Whalers name when they run their throwback jerseys, so on and so forth. Yeah. But in any event, I think, a Bobby Orr or an original 6 calendar would be very interesting. The same thing along, which is exceptionally limited audience, would be a Canadian Football League calendar, especially with the history of that league with
Absolutely.
Players that played for the CFL over the years.
If I was going to do a calendar for them, Bob, it would be seasonal calendars that would start maybe, June 1st or May 1st and do a 12-month to, the end of April.
Right.
And have to be with the league because the calendars themselves would have to be sold at the games.
Right.
Like you said, it's a limited market. It's a good market.
Yeah.
Limited. So, yeah, I haven't ruled that out either. I mean, like I said, my priority was with the Pro Football Hall of Fame, then the college, and then maybe, if both of those go really well, then maybe, reach out to Canadian League and see if we can work together for sure.
Yeah, that would be very interesting. And because, again, that league has great history. And we were talking before the show, I used to have as a subscriber the Canadian Football Hall of Fame, the CFL Hall of Fame, and talking to those guys up there, very interesting. And I always like the CFL. I've always liked it. It's a nice different football. A lot of Americans don't understand, and they don't understand how many American players are playing up there, nor do they understand the history of the CFL from
Absolutely.
up and prior to that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Miles, how is it going with the NCAA? You said you're starting to work with them, but how far along are you?
More, I think, Joe, with the College Football Hall of Fame in Atlanta. That's probably who I'll be working with, because they'll have images and whatnot to use. So I think that's my focus more than the NCAA. But who knows, right? I mean, you could approach individual teams, right? They all have alumni. I mean, I've considered maybe approaching the alumni at Michigan State about doing an exclusive calendar for them. And, whether different colleges or universities throughout the states, right, who have a very long history of playing football, Notre Dame, I mean, it's endless who you could approach to do a calendar exclusively, like for a school, right?
Definitely. Miles, can you give us information and our audience on where you can be found, where these calendars can be found, how they can be purchased, so on and so forth?
Sure. So first, they're on sale right now at the Football Hall of Fame. Online on October 1st. People can purchase them. You just go to throwbackcalendars.com, and that will take you to the landing page to purchase the calendar. If you have questions or maybe want more detail on the photos, you can email me at throwbackcalendars@yahoo.com. So if you have any questions or any concerns or ideas, I'm more than willing to hear them, because ironically, the production for 2026 starts near the end of November, December. So where we start gathering the images and the text and whatnot. So if folks or the audience have ideas or images that they would like to share, whether baseball or football, then I'm all ears. I'll certainly take a look at them and go from there.
And I'd like to welcome you to being our new advertiser for our Inside Back page beginning in the fall issue. And you're also going to be advertising on our website, so you can check us out through that and check you guys out through that. And again, I'm available too for any questions to direct you to you for anything I hear. And hopefully you'll sell a couple million of these calendars, and you'll be set at the same time. And we laugh about that, but how many millions of fans, NFL fans, are out there? I mean, there are numerous. And
absolutely. I'll give you
what I just don't understand sometimes is there's fans who will not collect anything. They will just have a jersey of a team, or maybe they'll go to every game and they have some, team wear, and that's really all they're concerned with. They have no use for a program. Ticket stubs are gone now anyway, so they're not even collecting those. But it's just fascinating to me, because again, growing up, the way I did back in the 60s, a big event to go to a football game, I would save my program and my ticket stub. That was part of the game of going. Yes. And obviously expanded to football cards and other pieces of a lot of paper material with regards to the games, yearbooks, media guides, so on and so forth. But in any event, this is something to me that's very simplistic, that you would just hang on a wall in your office or in your home and enjoy it.
They're beautiful.
Absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned about the audience. On the baseball side, I have a client that's orders calendars from Tasmania, which is an island this close to Australia there. So he pays the postage, but it just shows you how the reach can be, right? It's a world for sure. Yeah.
That's so ironic, because my daughter got married in Australia in April. She lives there, and at a restaurant during the stay, we actually had a bottle of wine from Tasmania recommended by the waiter, and then the waiter did say, baseball seems to be big in both Australia and in New Zealand, Tasmania, food. the islands over there, and it was that's ironic that you said that you got an order from there. So it was very interesting.
Exactly. And I wanted to make sure he got it, so I emailed him about 2 weeks later, and yeah, he got it. So the postal system did work.
Bob, where's the most far-flung subscriber to Gridiron Greats?
We still have our long-running Jean Rene Brevelier. I'm botching his name up, from France. He still subscribes to it. We had several subscribers in Australia over the years, and I have a gentleman in England who gets all the PDF versions of Gridiron Greats, and his wife for Christmas time, she buys him the physical issues, and I ship them all at once. The shipping costs overseas now is just astronomical. It is just I can't even comprehend it anymore from seeing over the years of mailing stuff.
I love that your French subscriber just got a name drop, and I'm sure it's like, yeah. I love that.
And he critiques the issue after every issue he receives, and it's fascinating. And he writes it in French, his letter in French. He's not good at English, so I have to I have a translate program on my computer, and then I write back in French. I write in English, and then it converts it to French. So we have a nice correspondence every issue. It's very fascinating, and he loves the CFL, and he loves all the alternative leagues. So he's fascinated about the new USFL, fascinated about the old USFL, WFL. He got from me some of my older WFL and USFL programs that he collects. He's a fascinating guy, fascinating individual. Very mesmerized by American football, which I find amazing in France, of all places. England, I could see it a little, but France, I'm astounded by it, to say the least. Unbelievable.
Miles, I'll be ordering one of your calendars. They're pieces of artwork. The pictures are stunning. The little notes are amazing. I absolutely love the write-ups. You did an incredible job.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that.
Miles, any other final thoughts before we let you go and get back to work there?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you won't be disappointed. Like, the price point is pretty reasonable, and you won't be disappointed. I know if you're a football fan and enjoy football history, this calendar is for you. And it's a unique, if you want to give it as a gift to somebody, wife to a husband or a boyfriend or whatever, it's a unique gift. Whoever receives it as a gift will be truly happy with it, for sure.
I agree with that 110%. So keep up the great work. We'll be in touch, and we'll be coordinating a few things over the next few weeks for you.
Miles, don't let anyone give you any crap about having a Yahoo email address.
All right, Joe. That just shows how old I am. That's all.
Don't. Yep. All right.
All right, Miles. Thank you for being on. Take care.
Thank you for being on. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Miles Causey and his throwback calendars. Great information there with regards to a nice gift, a nice piece of collectible history of the game, so on and so forth. I highly recommend you pick it up. Joe, we got a few minutes before we wrap things up. Handing off to you. What'd you pick up on today's show?
The classic guy. I love seeing people who take passion projects like that. Like every article in Gridiron, which if you're not a subscriber, what are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for? Gridiron Magazine.
Every article in Gridiron is just someone's passion project. I mean, take the one by Martin about Roman Gabriel. I really liked this go. I love your editor's page. They're all passion. And every one of those you read, you're just like, this is somebody's passionate about it. And every guest we have is somebody's passion project. Miles isn't doing this to make money. He's not doing this to retire and get rich. He's doing this because he's passionate about it. I mean,
right.
And he's doing an amazing job. we it would have been nice. We should have screen shared a few of those, but I'm not sure. We didn't get a chance to ask him if it was okay to screen share some of those, but it would have been nice to do some.
They'll be coming on in less than 3 weeks, or I'm sorry, less than 4 weeks. They'll be up and running. You can go on the website. You'll see some of the just there. So
just
sorry,
a passion project, just amazing. I love how he colorized them and just the stats and the write-up, just incredible.
It's very, very strong quality work, which is what I like seeing. I mean, it's not something at all thrown together. I mean, there was a lot of time and effort put into it, and it did look and does look very, very professional, which is very nice. And again, to me, since I love everything to collect as far as football is concerned, I still remember this to this day. There was a dealer at the National, and he had for lack of a better way to explain it, a potpourri pile of stuff. And he had all these old calendars in there. And he said, if you want them, take them. Blah, blah. He just wanted to get rid of them. I'm going to throw them out, so on and so forth. And I told him, you really shouldn't throw them out. I know they're not worth that much, but, there's history there. And they're very, very attractive to a collector of a particular team. I have a lot of old Packer calendars, which were published over the years, which I think are very, very interesting, and they're a nice collectible. And that 1982, I was trying to figure out where I have it here in the piles of everything, but I couldn't grab it quickly enough. But that's a nice calendar too. Seeing a lot of stuff from 1982 that were from the Market.com posters at the time. So they were a nice collectible, and there's something, again, paper. Since paper is becoming more and more verboten, we have to keep, that area of collecting going, to say the least.
Yeah. I went to a concert on a couple days ago, and they gave a paper ticket out, and I was like, what the hell is this? I thought that was pretty cool.
Wow. I would have been walking around after the concert and picking up all the ones that people left.
Yeah, it was. I hadn't seen one in a long time. I'm so used to having the problem of transferring, tickets back and forth. E-ticket.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of it, and that was the coolest thing about the Army Navy game when I went with Scotty Otten.
Yeah.
We had where we were sitting was one of 500 actual printed tickets. So we actually had a printed ticket, and we had, our what do they call them, the hanging thing to put them in.
Lanyards, yeah.
Yeah, and so we had those and went in, and man, that's a great collectible. And I was shocked what a few people offered for the ticket after the game. It was just mind-boggling to me. Mind-boggling.
On eBay for like $800 or something.
Yeah.
Just because they were pieces of artwork. And Scotty had input in designing those, didn't he? Weren't they throwbacks to like the original ticket or something?
Yeah. So they were copied based on that. And long story short, beautiful ticket, beautiful collectible, very very rare, one of 500. So it's a great collectible.
Still have regrets, not a lot of regrets in life, but I remember getting the invite to that, telling my wife about it, and then something came up. What was that? It was like a birthday, something that came up that I just, some family obligation where she's like, this is a little more important. And I'm like,
it was just a once in a lifetime deal. I flew in on Friday. I flew home on Sunday. I never spent 72 hours faster in my life. And Saturday was just magical going. I met a very high ranking Army colonel or Army official who knew Scotty really well. And I mean, I'm like shocked that the guy comes over and introduces himself to me, this military official. And it was just a phenomenal experience. And I will never forget it.
Well, it was just one officer, a colonel to a captain. I mean, did you tell him you're a captain?
No, I didn't say anything. I had to look up at him too, since I'm so short on top of it. So we're out of time. We got a couple of shows. A couple of guests we're working on for future shows. Hopefully, we're going to have a few over the next 2 weeks. We'll be back then. Again, if you're not subscribed to Gridiron Greats magazine, What are you waiting for?
for?
Check out and subscribe online, gridirongreatsmagazine.com. That's it. And we'll see you. Thanks for watching. Take care.
Bum, ba, bum, 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 ba, ba, bum, ba, bum, ba.